All right, guys, this is actually a pretty good one. We ran into a lot of problems along the way, but we managed to solve a lot. A couple of things with the Docker images, using build essentials, trying to find the right image, which we did. Used the Circle CI Ruby image, which came with all the tools we need. Then we bumped into a few things with Postgres, but we actually got there in the end as well. So it's a good one if you enjoy watching live debugging and people reading the internet for a while. This is a great one for that. So thank you and enjoy. All right. Hi team. So today we got Sep with us and we're going to work through setting up Bitbucket pipelines or a CI/CD tool so that every time they push changes, they can automatically run through their tests, and then once the tests have passed, it can actually go and deploy to the service of choice. So I'll flick us over and we'll get started. All right, Sep, how you going, mate?
Not too bad, not too bad. Kent, I don't have your preview.
Don't have
Can you?
my screen? Can you see my screen?
No, yeah, I can see your screen, not your face,
Oh, my
basically.
face. Yeah, no, that's all right, mate. That's just on a different, just running that on
Okay,
OBS on
yeah,
the side, so
cool
that's all
beans.
good.
Yep,
All right, so the first thing we're going to chat about, we just discussed this earlier, but we'll just go through it again.
yep,
So we're just looking at different options that we could use for running our CI/CD pipelines. Now, Sep and his team are hosting the code on Bitbucket. So the easiest thing to plug in is obviously Bitbucket pipelines. We use this one at work. So it's pretty decent and it's very easy to integrate. And then I think the thing that we were talking about the other day was the pricing. So with Bitbucket, when it loads, that is also something that to consider is the downtime in Bitbucket SEP. We all know about that.
yep.
There's a bit of it's a bit, not the
It on a daily basis, yep.
yeah, not the most reliable thing that you could have, but I mean it's easy to integrate. So it's got the pro. The con is the cons here is you only get. Why is it? Where's our hosting? It should have showed our pricing. This is the wrong thing. Where's the pricing for Bitbucket pipelines? Pricing details over here. Cool. So the free plan has 50 minutes. That is not very much. 50
Okay,
minutes, Sep. That
yeah.
is absolutely nothing. So we get 50 minutes a month included for free. And then you have to start paying. So it's 2,500 months on standard plan. And then you have to have the Bitbucket pricing page here. So that's option
That's
one.
not good,
No,
eh?
that's not good. So we'll look at the other one. So GitHub, they released their own actions. So the GitHub actions. I'm not familiar with this one, so we'd have to fumble through our way through it. But I think their pricing is a little bit more generous. So free plan has 2,000 minutes instead of 50. So you're getting 40 times more. And then the pros 3,000. And then what's this? Additional hosted runners. So that's if you want to do parallel runners, I'm assuming. So that's pretty good. And for public repos, so if you make your code, you just get it for free. So that's pretty cool. So if you didn't have code that was proprietary or you wanted to keep secret, you can do it there for free. All right. So then the next one that also a suggestion, Circle CI. These guys are probably the most generous on the free plan with 6,000 build minutes. Pretty good for $0. And then the only problem with these guys were they recently had a big data breach, which was super annoying because you'd have to change out all your secrets. So that happened, how long ago? That was last year. Last year was a pretty big thing. 4th of January, so not even last year, this year already happened. So yeah, look, Circle CI warns customers to rotate any and all secrets. That's not a fun time. So that is a negative and something to consider. So Sep, with that in mind, what do you reckon we tackle?
Yep. I reckon we tackle Circle CI.
You reckon we tackle Circle CI?
Yeah, 15 minutes is just not enough,
That's
especially for a hobby project if you want to, yeah, work on it.
yeah, no, for sure. So okay, cool. We're going to stretch it here. So, so the first thing with Circle CI is we're going to need to create our account and link our repos. So for me, I mean, we can do a. Sebi, do you want to sign up on that one for us?
Let me just do it.
If you can do that for us,
Yep, I'm
that,
doing it now.
that'd be great. And we can create a password that you can just share to me via message so that no one can steal it. So yeah, so with while Sep's doing that, so with CI/CD, why it's important and why you want to use it is it just every time we push a new feature up or a new branch up, it'll automatically run our test suites. So it'll double check that everything's passing before we actually merge it back into our master branch, and that just makes sure that when we're deploying to staging, production, or anything like that, we know that the code going out's good, or at least everything that we've tested is good. And then it means that we can, as soon as that's merged, we can merge our master into our production branch. Or if you had a staging environment, you could, as soon as we go into master and merge in, we run our tests, we build our app, and we deploy it straight into staging. Once it's in, that just means one less thing for you to think about as a developer. It just happens in the background, and then once you're happy with your your staging environment, you can jump onto merge that into your production branch, let that build through, and that deploys automatically. You don't have to worry about running commands or having devs understand or have secret keys. All of that's handled inside of your pipeline. These days, with the breach like CircleCI, there are tools like Vault you could use as well. You could do rotated keys, so that you don't have to worry about if something like this happens. You just rotate your keys easily enough, and away you go. How are we going on that side, Seth?
I just got an error from their side, so trying again.
What kind of error? Oh, how are we looking to start? Not off to a good start. So yeah, most of these
Doesn't allow me.
does not allow you. What's the problem?
It says I'll get the email to verify my account, but when I click on it, it says no user is created. User does not exist.
Good stuff, guys. You probably want to work on the old sign up. Should we give pipelines? Should we give pipelines a crack?
Yeah, let's do that. Yep.
Just to give it a crack, and then we can
Yep.
work from there.
And in the meantime, I try to set up my
Okay, cool. No worries. Cool. So pipelines. So for us, pipelines, we want to go to Bitbucket pipelines documentation configuration reference. Great. So you can find all of this here. I'm just going to bump the screen up. So the file that we want to create inside of the repo, it'll live in the root, and it's called bitbucket-pipelines.yml, so a YAML file. And inside of that, we can set up all the configuration. We can set up the different tasks that we want to run. We can use like what Docker image we want to use as the base, options, all sorts of definitions, caching. It's pretty good. We do quite a lot of things in production at work. So the first step, I'm just going to open up. I've got the repo here. So we're working on the medication API. I'm just going to create a new branch here, and it's going to be called, we're going to call it Bitbucket Pipelines. Cool. So we've got our branch. So now inside of the repo here, right in the root, new file. It's going to be bitbucket-pipe.yml. That's our file there. Now, I wonder if CodePilot can help us out. It doesn't look like it wants to. But anyway, so the first piece that we want to do here is we're gonna do the Docker. This is the Docker image name. So I'm just using a fake name here to begin. But what we will use is a base. So when you're setting up a normal dev environment, you'd have installed Ruby. You would have installed, certain. If you're working with images, you might be installing ImageMagick. You might install, GhostScript, anything like that. So what we want to do is we want to create a Docker image that mimics basically our staging or our production environment. So if you're deploying to staging and production, you'd probably use exactly the same image that you're using in your tests for those environments, so that you know that when you're running a test, you're running on the same version of Ruby, you're running on the same version of all your dependencies, everything's exactly the same. So when you go to staging or production, It all looks exactly the same. So that's the first step. Now, if you're using something like, let's call it Docker Hub, you would have a username and password, which would store in environment variables. But if you're using a public image, you wouldn't need these kind of things. The next one we have is definitions. So inside of that, we're going to have caches. So if there's anything you want to cache, so sometimes it depends how you set up your Rails application, if you're using API only mode or if you're using a normal app mode. Something you'd probably cache is the assets. So when Rails does its pre-compilation step, we want to make sure that those are all cached. So that we're just adding that.
Do we need that on the API side too?
You won't need that on the API side. I'm just going to show this here, but we'll probably remove it. So the API side, it pulls out a lot of stuff, so we don't actually compile any assets or anything like that. I'm just want to show the general definition file here. So the next one that we want to run, we're going to have services, and we're going to run Postgres. So you'll have, this is if you have a DB. So I'm pretty sure you guys, I haven't checked it, but if we look at config, database, so while we're using here, you can see the adapter is that big enough? There we go. Is Postgres. So we want to make sure that when we're running our tests, we're also running Postgres here. So the image that we want to use, so this is a Docker image again. This will just be the normal Postgres image. The environment, so you can set some things up in the environment. So this is where we're going to say what is the DB going to be called. And then one of the variables that this is just a requirement for security is the host method. Is this one, the Postgres host auth method. So I think it's actually part of, from memory, Bitbucket. Yeah, it's come in a while ago. I think they asked this, but you can set here, if you don't want to use a username password, you can use the host method auth trust. Yeah, that's so that we can avoid using a username password when connecting to the test DB, I believe. Could be wrong, so do not hold me to that one. The next piece here, so the steps. So these are pieces that we can run, so we can predefine like a step that we want to actually run, and then you use steps in a pipeline. So you could say, like, for instance, a step could be test, and then another step could be precompile assets. Another step could be, if you're building a monolithic app, you could have test front end, test back end, or like aspect testing and jest testing. Each of those would be a step. Oh no, cool. We're on the free meeting and we'll end in 10 minutes. That is disappointing. So we'll have to restart and not be plebs. Excellent. All right. So we'll continue. So the first step here, we're going to add in the aspect test. Now the thing with YAML is it's all about exactly your correct tabbing. So we're naming our test here, and it's a reusable one. That's why it's got this ampersand in there. And here we're going to set, so the first thing is going to be name, aspect tests. So you can name this whatever you want. It's just so that we know what's running. And then in the next block here, you can say caches. So usually when you run a test and you want to use the same assets that we compiled already from the last time, rather than building it every single time, we can reuse the cache here. This again, just an example to show, but in this instance, we'll probably remove all this. Then the next block after the cache is the script. So the script now is a bunch, we can do multiple lines of things we want to do in this step. So the first thing that we want to do when running a script, and you have to just imagine this environment is fresh every time. So the first thing we have to do is bundle install. So we actually want to go through and install every gem so that we're ready to go when it runs. The next step we're going to do is we're going to prepare the database. And we can use Rails DB test prepare now, I believe, in the new versions. Once we've prepared our DB, we're going to migrate. So we're going to run all the changes that we've made to the database. Then once we've got that, if we're running seeds, which
Yep.
you've
We
got
do. Yep.
seeds. Yep. So that's great. So we want all this kind of stuff in our DB. So we're going to run that. And then the next line here is actually the RSpec. So here I like this in CI/CD, the fail fast flag, because you don't want to be running, once your test suite becomes really big, you don't want this thing to just keep running even though it found a failure right in the beginning. You just want it to stop straight away. So we're not wasting resources or minutes. So we're only getting our 50 minutes. We want this thing to stop as fast as possible. So that's why we have fail fast. And then what we also have to say is in the step, we want to use services and we want to have access to the Postgres service. Okay? So that's the steps.
Is it because we want to create the seed file and everything in the database?
Yeah, so inside of the step, every step needs, if it references a service, which we've defined here, it needs to be explicitly said. So because basically what happens, this is me making an assumption, and I'm pretty sure it's right, but what they do is every step is its own environment, its own Docker environment. I mean, I don't know if it's its own Docker environment, but it's its own little environment. So you just need to say give access. So when we run this, you'll see it'll spool up two pieces. It'll spool up on the one side will be our tests and basically our pipeline. And on the other, there'll be another tab and it'll be services and it'll be Postgres. You'll see it sitting there. So what it does, you're creating a bridge now, basically letting these two to communicate to each other when they run. So that's what we need to do there. Then so once we've set up our steps, so you can add multiple steps here. You can create as many as you want, and they can all do different things. They can do whatever scripts. So basically, these are just terminal commands, each line. So you can write anything you can run normally in Linux, you can run here. So now what we can do is a pipeline. So these are actual group of steps. You can think of it in that way. And what we do is we have default. So this is a pipeline that will run regardless. It'll always run. It'll run on anything that you push up, basically. And then what we also have access to is a little special one, which I like to use. If tests don't rely on each other, so sometimes you need one thing to pass, then the next one can run. But a lot of time with tests, like if you're running Jest and RSpec and all sorts of different ones like that, you don't need them. They don't rely on each other. So you can run them in parallel and that just saves time. So instead of saying now your Jest test took 5 minutes and your RSpec took 5 minutes, now that's 10 minutes, you can just run them both at the same time and now you're only taking 5 minutes. And this really only matters once you get very big and you have a lot of things running. Because what you could also do is you could split your RSpec tests in half. Like you could say, based on with RSpec, you can do exclude and you can do certain naming conventions. So you could say okay, I want to run these half of these tests here, and then these half. So it could be RSpec test 1, RSpec test 2, and you could run both those parallel. So you're saving time. So there's just things to think about because sometimes our tests at work run for, it can run, just RSpec alone runs for 30 minutes because it has over 10,000 tests. So we don't want to run those things in synchronous. So the next piece of our puzzle here is a step. So we're saying in parallel, run this step. And then if we had another step, it would look like this, right? So we're just going to run one for now because we only have one. So that's the default. Then what we can set up here is branch-specific pipelines. So what we want to do is for master, we want to run steps. And this is targeting a deployment. I actually don't know if we need this one. We're just going to run these in parallel again. Now we're going to run this step. Now the only thing with Bitbucket or any of these tools usually is the only way to test them is actually to push up the change. So to see if we've actually done the right thing. Okay, so the first thing here, so this is our file. So this is our Bitbucket pipeline file now. So we're pretty much, that's all we need because we're only doing one thing at this stage, which is testing. So the first piece of the puzzle that we need to do is actually check what image we want to run this on. Now, I can see there's a Docker file here. And we can see that it's running on It looks like it's running, what is this? Key.io as base. So it's using this image. So basically what it looks like to me is the image that we're using is something like this. Ruby version 3.04 GML, like that. That's what it looks like we're using to me. Because these are being interpolated in through there.
Correct.
And then this. So this is Key.io. I don't know what this is. Like what? Evil MS. What is that? Let's just see if there's a...
Also, one question regarding the pipelines.
Yeah.
Is there any way to specify on which sort of branch we run the pipeline?
Yep.
Is it always going to be on all branches, or we can only say, oh, as soon as the pipeline is approved and the PR is approved and we want to merge it into master, just run the pipeline?
Yep, you can do that.
Is there any way to specify? Okay.
Yes, definitely. So here, this is defaults. This will be for all your branches. This will be here, right? And then here for master, we're doing something special here. But at this stage, they both look exactly the same because they are. But in master, what you'd have is you'd have step this, and then you're going to have another step here, which will be deployment. Yeah. So that's what you do differently. I would suggest you always run tests in your branches, just because you don't want to only pick it up once you've merged it. It's too late.
Oh, okay.
Do you know what I mean? Like it's too late then.
Yep.
Like now your master branch is broken. You never want master. You always want master to be pristine, so that we know that it's perfect. So you want those tests to fail before your reviewer comes through and actually approves that.
That's right. Yep.
So yeah, that's why we run these, and basically that happens on every push. You can also do manual tests. Like you can also set up custom pipelines where you have to manually run them. But I mean, when we're talking automation, we want everything to just run without people thinking, because people are going to forget.
Exactly.
And then once you're building, once you get into building a real business that makes money, the cost of the pipeline, we're talking $30, $40, $50 a month is outweighed. If you're running tests, you just get them going. So the first thing with this Docker image is we're going to try this one and see if that's actually a proper image. So that's the first piece. So Key.io looks like some sort of service, and it stores containers securely. So some sort of service from Red Hat. So that's why that's there. And then this EVLMS just looks like evil something, but that could just be nothing. Cool, so that's from Red Hat, so it's all good. So then we're going to grab the full stack Ruby 3.04 Gemalloc Slim. All right, we're back on. We got rudely interrupted by Zoom because we're not paying for it, which is great. So the first thing here that I just wanted to quickly show us again was the Ruby version inside the repo is 3.04. Sep, just want to double check you can hear me, mate.
Yes, I can.
Excellent, I can hear you too. All right, that's the one thing. I wonder if that's recording your sound. Probably not, but that's great. That'll be really annoying, actually. So cool, you'll just be sitting there smiling. Oh well, that's what you get on the big jobs. All right, so cool. So we've set up our pipeline here. We're using Ruby, we're using 3.04, and it's a slim package. So it's got the minimum thing, so it just keeps the Docker image size down. Cool. All right, so we've done that. Now what I want to do is I'm going to commit this file. Yep, create Bitbuckets, that's fine. We're going to commit that. And now what we're going to do is we're going to just publish this branch. Now what we need to do inside of, just bump the screen size up. We need to go into repo settings. We need to go into, where are you? Pipelines. And we have to go to settings here, and I believe you have to turn it on. Oh, it's on already. Cool, you guys must have done that earlier. So this is just a gotcha sometimes. It's just making sure that this is actually turned on, otherwise it won't run. So what we'll see now is if we go into pipelines, hopefully, here we go. We can see that we've got a pipeline running. So first piece here, the puzzle here. So there's a step. Well, we've got a fail already, and that's fine because we already know why that is. we can see here's basically our main pipeline. And then inside here, we have the Postgres service, which is what I was talking about. So it's running two Docker images or two environments here. And it's basically starting up a Postgres DB for us. And you can see here, database down the bottom is ready to accept connections, right? So we've got a DB running, just like you would on your local system, and you've got your pipelines running. And you can see here, so the first thing that it does, it basically just fetches all the code. So it's getting from our commit, and then it's just doing a bit of configuration. It's getting the cache. Is there a cache there? No. And then these are all the variables it's injecting in. And then here's the image that it used. So there's the key IO, full stack, blah, blah, and there's the char. And this is the exact version of that image. And then the second image that it used was the Postgres image, which we defined in here. And it's running that. Okay, so then that's the build setup. Then each step will run. Cool. Yeah. So what it's saying now is we can't use this path vendor bundle. So what that does is we define a folder where we want to install the gems to. So usually what this will be a random path on your system where you'll have your gems installed. But when we pass a flag like that, what we're saying is put it in a specific folder. So we want it in the vendor folder under bundle. And the reason being is so that we can actually cache that later. So we could reuse, so we don't have to install the gems every time, because sometimes just gem installation can be really slow and take a lot of time. So we can actually cache that across builds, again, saving time. But it looks like, this is running an older version, which is okay, but the path flag is deprecated, but it looks like, so what do we got here? Error to build the native gem. So it can't build, which one is it? So this is actually an error. The compiler failed to generate an executable file. Which gem is it? I wonder if it's the shoulda matches. That's interesting. So for me, I would be concerned is if you use that same image to deploy, it probably would not build either. Yeah, it looks like every single gem. An error called PG. I think
Postgres.
It's the Postgres gem. Okay, this is cool. Do some live debugging. PG 1.1. I wonder what. Let us do a little check here and see what version. What do we have here? Okay, let's go bundle outdated. PG. Okay, so that's quite old. 1.1. So we can probably bump this without anything too serious. So let's do that. And let's just run bundle. Installing PG. It says it was 1.143, so that actually... So I guess, this was just asking for anything above or around 1.1, but it actually had, on my system, it was 1.43, but maybe on the... in the image, it wasn't using the right one. So what we'll do is we'll just see if we can fix that. So we just want to upgrade PG. I don't think this will fix it, but we'll try anyway. It's only jumping up 0.43. I wonder why that is. Could not create makefile. I wonder if it's because it's a slim package and it doesn't have the things needed to build gems. What we can do is just for the simplicity of this, to make it easier to do, is we can say we can go to Docker Ruby images. So here is circle CI Ruby official image. Here are the tags. So what we're running is 304. So we can see, do they have it? They don't have 304. So here's all the different images directly from Ruby. So we could try I'm sure they have a Ruby 3.04. So we can go Docker Ruby 3.04 image Alpine. Let's try this one. So we could try run this one. So what we'll do is we'll change out in pipelines. We'll change this out for now to the Alpine image, and just see if we can get us through to see if this failed. That failed again. So it's not Postgres. That's the problem there. So what we'll do is we'll say change pipelines base image. Let's see if it's the image's fault or if it's something else that we're not doing right. So you can see the nice thing about pipelines here is that it's all integrated straight into Bitbucket. It looks really nice and it works pretty well. So apart from the stingy 50 minutes and the downtime that happens, it's pretty good overall. And that's, guess why we've stuck to it for so long. All right, let's see if we can get through something. So here's the build, we're building through our gems. Did that fail? Yeah, it failed again. What is going on here? But it looks like it's failing on every gem.
Yeah, it looks like every gem is failing.
Let's see Docker. Build essential. Yeah, we probably need the build essential. That's annoying. Ruby with build essential. So we need a Docker Ruby. So build essential is basically a bunch of packages that I used for building from source into a binary. It could be anything. It doesn't have to be Ruby. It could be any binary. So we need with build essential in it. Who has it? Someone had one. I'm trying to think who it was. Ruby with the build essential. Because we don't want to have to run this in our Docker image. So either we create our own Docker image, which is an option. So you could create your own with it in it, or you have an image with build essential installed. But what are these guys using? Closer look. Yeah, see, look here. They're installing the build essential. The Docker 7.1 image file. So how do we get this? Are you guys publishing this image? It's a Docker image. Yeah, see, they're installing that inside their image. And I wonder if that's even in here. There.
Yes. Yep.
See, so we actually need that. That's annoying. You don't want to have to go and build this now. Circle CI might have Ruby. They have some images. C image Ruby. Yeah, I reckon we try this, hey? Let's give this a go and just see, maybe, because this is 4 pipelines, so I'm imagining we need 304. Let's see, use. Just trying to find something that has what we need in it.
Yeah. Oh, I think it does have build essential.
Yeah, there we go. Build essential. So you can see the difference in like size here. So there's 598.
Yeah.
And then with one.
And then a gigabyte, yeah.
So you almost double. So depending on what you need. So this has got a few more packages. So that's all that the differences are. Like, so this one has Selenium in it. So that's so they can use browsers and stuff. But yeah, this is pretty good. So like these images, Circle CI have wget, so you can actually like fetch packages and stuff if you need to. It's got the build essential. It's got, what's this, gem. So yeah, so that's what we want.
Okay, cool. It's cloning now.
Oh, okay, good. Here we go.
Winning.
Hopefully. Don't talk too soon. Yeah, we'll see if we get past anyway. Shooter matches. Done. Puma. Done. Done. Looks like we're on. Are we on? What's the next error? Nah, we've got an error here. Could not. Okay. So we can't connect to the server. So that's cool. All right, we've got a new error. I like new errors. That means we're moving forward. Okay, so what do we have to do? So what we have to do now is we have to look inside of our config, look inside of our database. And what we want to do is, when we're in test environment, so we are using the database called medication test. Does that mean, we just have to double check here, the name is DB test. So firstly, what is your thing? You're saying you can't even connect, so that's fine. So the first thing here, we go medication test. We need to use that, I believe. What we need to also do is, there's a few settings here that are missing. The port, their port, and the host. So I think we have to do, let's just see if this works. I've got this somewhere, but I just can't remember what it was. I have a flag.
Looks like,
Yep, sorry.
yeah, it looks like it has to be localhost and the host I'd be using localhost 5432.
Yeah, so I think we just have to explicitly say that. All right, we're back again. So I'm looking here. So what they're doing is they got the image and then they got the environment here. So Postgres user, Postgres DB, Postgres password. I mean, let's just put this as, and then they've got that's interesting, that's PostgreSQL. So the user is Postgres, the password is Postgres, localhost, and that's the DB. Medication test. Okay. What I'm thinking, okay, that's what I'm thinking is happening. There's no database there yet. So it has to create it. Now, I wonder if we drop this off. I'm just removing the actual database itself and just seeing if we can connect to the Postgres instance. Because we want to create the database. Rails will actually create it. So let's see. Yeah, see, so every time we kind of want to cache all this stuff because every time you do it, it has to do and build all this. So it just slows it down.
Yep.
No, failed. Could not find your database Postgres. That's really annoying because we don't have a database called Postgres.
Do we need to create it as part of the bundle?
Well, yeah, so this piece here, that creates everything. So Rails DB test prepare, oh, is now deprecated. Excuse me. And it is back. Okay.
But it also checks for the pending migration.
Yeah, it checks
I
for
feel like we can do
DB
Rails
create.
DB setup to create. Yeah,
Yeah,
or yeah.
yeah. I mean, you can, but we can run that. From memory, this is meant to do it though. So, but I mean, we can do this just in case it's not doing it, but it's supposed to do everything. Let's see. Hopefully that works. Because yeah, unless it's been deprecated in Rails 7. Because we use Rails 6 at work. But we do use a 7 in the engaged system. Where is the Rails 6 adds this? Rake DB test. I wonder if it's Rake DB test. See? See, you can rebuild it from scratch by running rake db test prepare. I wonder if that's... Yeah, I don't know. That's people are saying it's deprecated, but I don't know. Let's see if this works. No, it failed again. Oh no, there we go. That's something different.
Oh, cool.
Couldn't find patient with ID 1. Okay.
That's regarding the seed file, I guess.
Yeah, the seed file. So that is just going to be dodgy seeds. So that's good. I like seeds like that. Okay. So what this is doing, it's saying skip if the page. So this is for a local DB where you've set it up one time, and then the next time you want to run. Now the problem that I always say is never use find
or create,
because it. No, you never want to use find. This is fine. The step is fine, but the reason you don't want to use find is because find throws an error. You want to say return if find by ID. Find by will not throw. So when you throw, it stops. Everything crashes, unless you have a catch. So basically what this iteration is doing is it's creating users. It's a bit. I mean, I wouldn't say this is the best way of doing it because it's using faker, so that's fine. But like, you're making the assumption that there are users of 1 to 20 because you're looking for ID of 1 to 20.
Yep.
What if there's something's run before this and the DB, these are users like correct, 30 to 40. So we don't really want to just do something simple like this. What I would probably do is create just like any other seed, actually seed real things, right? Like just, like maybe even just have, add a parameter like a key, or, like you could say like find or create a patient by key, and then you have a list of keys, and then the data can still be fake. That's fine, but then this is like a seeded user. And the problem with this as well, using seeds like this is going to lead into problems later, because when you run your seeds, you want to run your seeds on production as well, because seeding's for things that are like you always want there. So I would never say seed this. I wouldn't seed this in a real app. If you wanted to have like this stuff on your local, because that's what I'm assuming this is for, I would set it up would set it up in lib. I would set it up in tasks, and I'd create a new rake task here, and I'd say seed dummy patients. And then I could just run in dev, I can just say, when I get set up, I can say rake, and then run the command to seed the file, and then I get all my patients, because you don't want these in production.
No, we don't.
No. And
that's purely for just having the list item. Yeah,
it's the same here, right? This is also what this is going to do here. The problem with this one is that it's going to create 20, every time the seed runs, it's going to create 20 more users.
That's right.
So every time you run it, you're going to get 20 more users. You don't want that. And then here, same thing, right? And then this is using random IDs. You're making an assumption here that you're using 1 to 20 and they're actually existing. Because look, it's
Correct.
doing
Yeah.
a create and join. So this will probably throw errors later as well. So there's a few holes in these seeds here. So I would
Yep.
like the only thing that I'd probably be seeding is this, your roles.
Maybe we can comment them out.
Yeah, I mean we'll see if it can work. I've just updated this. We'll just push that again. But yeah, so for production and thinking about the future, I would only
Correct.
have
Yeah.
one seed file here, which is this one, and then
That's
I'd
right. Yeah.
move these into rake tasks, and go from there. Let's see how we're going. Yeah, that's just something to keep in mind. I've seen that. That hurt us in Real Hub originally.
Cool.
We
Yeah.
had
Didn't know
stuff,
that.
yeah, we had that stuff set up, and then you don't want it in production. But you can also do, like, you could have two different seed files. You could have one for test and one for dev, and you could say depending on what's going on, and one for production and staging. So you could wrap it like if environment is production, then do these.
Test.
These.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, I would just keep it into a rake task because realistically, it's like I want users and I don't want to manually create them. I'm just going to run rake, and you put in your README and away you go. What do we have here? Oh man, no, we're back there again. Could not find your DB, and that's with Rails DB setup. Created data, medication development. So the database exists, but it's using, because we're exporting this.
Yep.
Um,
Do you want to add that medication
yeah,
test back to the URL?
Yeah. Let's just see. Where is it? Yeah, we don't set any of that other stuff. Normally it's just literally just this. Yeah, I don't reckon. Got any ideas, Sep?
Not actually.
No. Right. DB test repair.
You may want to remove line 23 too. Do you need to have the database URL?
No, this one? Yeah, I'm gonna get rid of that one.
Yep.
So yeah, I don't want that one. Oh, we don't need this actually either, because we're using that image. Like this should do it.
Like setting up a new project, everything is just not fun.
I know, that's the thing. You kind of create yourself a base and then you work from there. I think that's the easiest. Once you've got it working in all your different tooling, you create yourself. That's what I'm kind of doing, create an API base, and then from there you just fork off that repo. It's just way easier. You have to do this every time. And that's why tools like T3 app and stuff exist. It's because like they've installed all the things that they think you need. And then from there, well, Sep, unfortunately, we didn't get it fully running, which is disappointing.
That's it.
But my time has run out for today. But on the next episode, hopefully, we can figure out this role. I think it's got something to do with the image here. It's probably just injecting an environment variable in there. So we'll have a look at that and then get it up and running. But thank you very much for your time, sir.
Fantastic. No, thank you so much for teaching me this kind of stuff.
Yeah, this is what happens.
I wouldn't ever be able to do that.
There we go. We get stuck and we just keep going, but we'll figure it out.
Exactly.
And on to the next one. All right, mate.
Cool. Thank you.
Thanks, bud. Have a good one.
Yep. Have a great day.
See ya. Bye. All right. While we jumped off the call, or after we jumped off the call, I should say, just had a little notice that we're using Circle CI as the username for the DB. Found a little piece of gold on the internet just to set your username. So what we've done here is we've just updated the username to Postgres. Now push that up and we can actually see that our pipeline is successful. So DB setup, creating the DBs. Probably don't need to do the development one, but we've got that anyway there. We've got our test, prepare, migration, seeds, ran RSpec, 26 passes, 3 pending, build teardown, got a green check, which means that everything's good to go. We can now go through and add on the branches, we can add checks. So when someone creates a PR, we can make sure that they are tests that have passed. And if that's all good, we can get approvals and we can merge those into master and run the next pipeline. So hope you enjoyed that. We found a few little issues and solved them on the fly. And that is the nature of development. So catch you next time.